Hey, so I bought a sword. Not bad. I still kinda got it. I used to do wushu in college. I even brought out my old figures for this. Let's go. I'll be honest, the real reason I am picking up a sword and getting back into wushu after all these years is because I'm trying to impress a girl. Her name is Li Sushang. She's the latest Valkyrie released with Honkai Impact 3rd, and her Jade Knight battlesuit is gorgeous. I'm here today to talk y'all through some of the traditional Chinese influences that we see in her design, as well as the interesting sort of Eastern-Western fusion and modern traditional fusions that we see in the design as well. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Yes! Okay, that was really bad. That was really bad. Close your eyes. First off, before we dive deeper, I am going to be referencing some notes that the game devs themselves have already posted on the Honkai Impact 3rd YouTube channel in their video about Li Sushang's Jade Knight battlesuit, but I specifically want to be diving deeper on the Chinese cultural elements that we're seeing in her outfit design, which I think are just truly gorgeous. So we're gonna tease out some of those details, maybe you'll learn some Chinese phrases or two, and I think it'll be a fun experience for all of us. I also want to pause and thank Honkai Impact 3rd for sponsoring this video. Thank you very much for looping me in and do this. I thought it was such a great idea when they approached me. They're like, you wanna do an outfit analysis for Li Sushang? I'm like, sign me up, let's go. Anyways, first things first, I think the big obvious thing that you see in her outfit right off the bat is this white and blue kind of color scheme that she has going on, right? Is anyone familiar with this like white and blue style that you often see in porcelain, for example, especially in Chinese porcelain? So just to give y'all an example, this is a style of porcelain that in Chinese is called qinghuaci, and in English we usually refer to it as blue and white porcelain. It's a very literal translation. And this is a pattern that in the modern Chinese cultural consciousness has really become like a standard symbol of Chineseness. I really don't know how else to put that. One of my favorite demonstrations of how this kind of qinghuaci pattern has been worked into kind of the popular consciousness of what is beautiful is in Guo Pei's work, actually. For those of you who don't know, she's a really famous like couture designer, but she famously designed a set of gowns using this kind of qinghuaci pattern. It's just gorgeous. Like, it's kind of outlandish and weird and otherworldly, but I also just feel like it embodies that beautiful detailing of qinghuaci and yet the simplicity of the white and the blue. It's the type of pattern that really translates across different artistic media. In Li Sushang's Jade Knight battlesuit, where we see this the most is along the right edge of her dress, right under the bodice kind of area, where you're seeing that wave-like, almost cloud-like or cedar-like detailing is what you'll see in a lot of Chinese paintings, for example. That those are the shapes that are evoked in the way it trails down the side, and also in, I think, the fades of the blue, that there are multiple shades of it. It's really that aspect of it that gives it a qinghuaci appearance, and I love seeing it. I love seeing it on her. It looks so good. The next thing I want to point out is actually the jade pieces that she's wearing. She has a few. There's one at her throat, one on her like left thigh on a garter-like thing, and then one on the right side of her torso alongside some tassels and knots and whatnot. It's obvious, I think, to a certain almost stereotypical kind of point that jade is a very Chinese thing. However, I did want to take this opportunity to learn a little bit more about like what jade means actually in Chinese culture. Like, does it symbolize anything? I'm about to drop a bunch of knowledge on y'all, okay? Get your notebooks out. Are you ready? When I was a kid, I had a tiny little jade zodiac thing. So I'm a pig. I had a little jade zodiac pig. It was like a little necklace that I would wear for a little while, but my parents have kept it over all these years. Apparently, these are actually pretty high quality jades. I don't actually know the rules of how you like appraise jade and its quality, but I was told by my parents that these are pretty high quality. Apparently, part of it is in how they sound. So let me give y'all a bit of ASMR. I bring these out just to make the point that jade pendants are sort of genderless. Like, people of all genders wear them in different ways. Sometimes it's as a necklace, sometimes it's like a little bracelet. There's actually a common design you may have seen is like this kind of a circular bangle. The idea that I found most interesting about jade, though, was this idea that it kind of takes on the essence and the character of the person that wears it. So, for example, if I were to wear a bangle like this every day, or just if I just wore it often, the idea is that it would take on a lot of my characteristics and my essence. To make a really crass comparison, it's sort of like when leather or a cast iron skillet gets seasoned over time and it's supposed to be like better, right? These are things that take on quite literally the elements of the world around them and incorporate them into their bodies. I really don't know how to say that more elegantly. I'm sorry, that's a really uncomfortable way to put it. More elegantly. I've talked a lot about my like zishahu, my teapots, my clay teapots. Those are porous, right? You're supposed to only use one type of zisha teapot for one type of tea because it takes on the qualities of that tea because it's porous. It's kind of a similar idea with these jade pieces, is that they take on your character and your qualities, and the jade reflects its owner in many ways. So this is also the reason why you're gonna find that most Chinese people are really uncomfortable buying jade pieces that are used. Like, I wouldn't roll up to like an antique store or a secondhand like thrift shop or something and buy a jade piece. I don't know, maybe it's like a serial killer. Like, I wouldn't know. Long story short, every jade, just by virtue of you wearing it, kind of becomes uniquely yours in many ways. So there's like a very special feeling of like personalized ownership and also cleanliness and good luck and fortune kind of all baked into one stone, which I think is very interesting. And it's nice to finally get an explanation for why jade is such an important type of Chinese cultural item. So now I feel like I can really properly appreciate these little piggy jades that I had before, and I was just kind of wearing out of, I don't know, obligation or habit, but now they feel very personal to me in a really nice way. The thing about Li Sushang's jades that I really like though is that they glow blue. Jade kind of has a range of colors, right? They go anywhere from like a green hue to a blue hue to like an almost white, like creamy type hue. This level of blue glowiness that we have on her, that's obviously not like a natural jade. And so I think it brings on some interesting points about her entire battlesuit being the concept of like the harmony of the past as well as the future. That we have like cybernetic elements, like a blue glowing jade, along with the jade pendant itself being a very traditional concept. The true beauty of this battlesuit, to me at least, is that combination of traditional and modern. So we've talked a lot about how the battlesuit has like the white and the blues, the jade pieces, but there is one highlight color that we see here that I haven't talked about yet, and that's the red. And the red really stands out against the blue and the white, right? You may have also noticed that there are red strings here, and specifically on her bodice, those are red strings as well, but there were red strings on the pendants that I showed you, for example. And if you had a sharp eye, when I was flourishing my sword earlier, that also had a red tassel attached to it. I feel like most people are aware of the fact that in Chinese culture, the red string is a symbol of something that wards evil and brings good fortune, right? Like, for example, I actually begged this one off my mom also while I was grilling her, because I was like, Mom, I have to make a video for Honkai Impact 3rd where I have to talk about Chinese culture. Can you make sure I'm not clowning myself? My brother was like, you're making mom do unpaid labor? And I was like, I'll buy her a nice coffee. So I actually stole this basically off my mom. This is a bracelet she wore during her zodiac birth year. And I don't mean the year she was born, but the zodiac year she was born. So for example, I was born in the year of the pig. Every 12 years, the zodiac turns a full cycle. And so every 12 years, it is once again the year of the pig. A lot of people assume that when your zodiac year shows up, we call it the 本命年, so the year of the zodiac like animal that you were born. A lot of people think that that's like a good thing. You would think it's good luck, but actually every turn of the cycle brings you a year of bad luck. So during your zodiac year, I don't know if anyone else had this experience getting raised by Chinese parents, but my parents were always like, make sure you wear a lot of red this year. So the red string is a symbol, as I said earlier, of something that wards off evil and brings you good luck. So this is the kind of thing you would wear to counteract the bad juju. I think any anime fans here will also be very familiar with the concept of like the red string of fate, right? The idea that there's a string tying you to another person somewhere in this world, and you all are soulmates and you're fated to meet. This concept of a red string of fate also exists in the Chinese mythology and cultural consciousness, to the point where actually in ancient Chinese weddings, if you've ever watched like a Chinese historical drama, you probably have seen this. The bride is walked in with the groom and they are joined by this literal red sash ribbon thing with like a big bow in the center. This is the literal visualization of the red string that tied the bride and the groom together. I also think there's a little bit of this more generalized notion that it's not only like a string of love, but also in general it implies the sort of fate, destiny type energy, right? And I think that, especially when it comes to Honkai Impact 3rd, that's very, very relevant, because so much of this game and its story, and again, I'm not that deep in, but I can kind of guess where this is going in many ways. I feel like a common running theme in Honkai Impact is about fate and destiny, and whether it's something that is prescribed to you or if it's something you can change. Sorry, I did just watch Himeko, you know, still processing a little bit. I think that red string of fate, the fate concept there, is particularly relevant in the Honkai sphere, so I do want to draw attention to that fact that it's specifically a red string that is sort of almost binding Li Sushang in this battlesuit. Finally, when it comes to Chinese beauties, in Chinese poetry, when you describe someone, especially a woman, as being beautiful, you always use elements of nature. So it's always like weeping willows and like flying cranes and sweeping clouds, right? Like this is is how we describe beauty in the way that I guess Chinese culture values natural beauty. They've always compared feminine beauty with the natural world. That's been like an ongoing kind of trend. And in Li Sushang's case, there's absolutely, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that you can find nature elements all over her design. And in particular, I was talking to the Honkai team because they're sponsoring this video, and I was like, is there anything in her character design that you want to make sure I don't miss? And they were like, oh, there's actually one phrase in Chinese that we use to describe feminine beauty that we think really encapsulates Li Sushang's character in many ways, and her beauty, of course. And so that phrase, you guys ready? It's a little bit long. I forgot. Hold on, let me pull up the notes. Okay, I got it. Ready? The phrase is 成鱼落雁, 闭月羞花. The literal translation of this phrase is the fish are sinking, the geese are falling, the moon is hiding, and the flowers are ashamed. Which I know sounds just crazy, but hear me out, okay? So it's an 8-word phrase, and it breaks down into kind of like 4 2-word parts. There's a sort of a tradition of telling the story of these like 4 legendary Chinese beauties. And so each of these 2 characters tells actually the story of one of these 4 Chinese beauties. I'm not going to tell the full stories, nor do I know the full stories, to be fully honest, but I am going to elaborate a little bit beyond the very crude literal translation I gave y'all just now. So 成鱼落雁 would be like, the fish are, essentially this woman is so beautiful that the fish sink away from the surface of the water, and the geese are falling out of the sky in like shock and awe at this woman's beauty. The moon is hiding its face, and the flowers are sort of like shy and ashamed because like their beauty could never match to this woman's, right? So that's basically like, you are so beautiful, you put nature to shame. This was brought up in the context of all of the nature elements that are worked into her outfit, so let's take a look at those, okay? The most obvious ones are actually in her hair accessories. So if you look at the shape of these things, if you've ever seen like a Chinese painting that sort of celebrates the way like mist weaves around a cedar tree, that's essentially this like wavy pattern that goes along the back, like the center of the back of her head. That is the clouds and also the fog and the cedars. That's the shape that it's evoking. These feather-like, leaf-like things around her, they are meant to be feathers and leaves. And then I think the interesting things are the danglies coming out of the centers of the buns. Those are kind of like, if you think of like wisteria or like dangling vines, that's kind of the image that they evoke. In general, this is a very like nature element heavy accessory design. Also, beyond that, this is a yin-yang symbol. Can you see it? I'll like superimpose it in the edit so you can really get a good look at it. In Chinese, that's actually called a taiji tu. We're not gonna go into the depth of the meaning of the taiji tu today. Overall, the yin-yang symbol or the taiji tu basically expresses the interconnected nature of the natural world. So everything flows into everything else, and we are all part of this greater natural order is kind of the concept of the yin-yang sign, or the taiji tu as we call it in Chinese. There are a few other points of actually Western influences that I want to touch on also. So the Shixal had a heavy hand in the construction of this, right? Otto personally designed and gifted this battlesuit as a final gift to Li Sushang. So his hand is in this, and it definitely shows in the design. You can really see the Western influences in particular in the crosses, which are sort of in a combination like Eastern and Western fusion cross design. I just want to point this out in the sense that I think it's really pertinent, and for me as someone who loves, fusion and cultural crossovers, I love seeing Eastern and Western blended influences in a design of a battlesuit that is also very sort of inherently Chinese at its core. Especially for a character like Li Sushang, and again, I don't know that much about her backstory, but I know she was like cryo frozen basically for hundreds of years, and she's emerged now into this like modern world so totally different from the world that she fell asleep in. The Western and Eastern fusion, the modern and traditional fusions, this is where I think the battlesuit's design truly shines, and I think it brings life to her character and extra dimensions to her character that I really appreciate, and I can't wait. I don't know, like seeing characters like this come out, I'm like, ooh, I need to be going faster through this game than I currently am, because I've been stalled at post chapter 9 for God knows how long. I gotta get back on it. I'm going to get back on it. The way these fusion elements captivate me, I think it comes partially from the fact also that like I am Chinese diaspora. We've been raised in a culture that is different from the ones that our parents were raised in. I often feel very disconnected from both of the cultures that I should be calling home. So seeing them kind of come together in this battlesuit is magical in many ways. I just love seeing, especially in popular culture, in modern media, seeing these kinds of elements come together to be celebrated, joyfully infused Western elements into a very Eastern design. When you look at this outfit, that is undoubtedly like a futuristic sci-fi battlesuit in the style of Honkai battlesuits. It's not, you know, just a traditional hanfu or qipao. Like her cross collar, for example, that's not a qipao collar. And yet the general shape of it evokes so many traditional Chinese cultural elements. Just like how watching Yunjin take the stage for the first time really made me cry. Seeing this design makes me excited to see what HoYoverse still has in store for us when it comes to this fusion approach that they're taking. I hope this was an interesting, informative video. I certainly learned a lot while researching for it, and thank you so much again to Honkai Impact 3rd for sponsoring this video. This collaboration was such a great opportunity for me to explore some Chinese cultural background and history. I really got to, you know, monopolize my parents' time and pick their brains and hear about their childhoods and like what they knew about their own culture, which it turns out even they had to go off and do research, right? Like in a way it was kind of affirming, and this kind of an opportunity to have those intergenerational conversations where we're both learning, actually. I feel like it was an invaluable opportunity. As always, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, have a wonderful time of day. I am still a new Honkai player, so if there is like lore relevance here that I missed, put it in the comments. Let me know. Tag your spoilers. Have a great time. Enjoy this battlesuit. Enjoy Honkai Impact 3rd. I will see you all around. Bye-bye.